Hello, my name is Brant Hunt. My channel is simply called Discerning What is True. I'm going to be reading another installment today from a book called Kabbalah in Exodus, or Kabbalah, whichever way you want to call it, by Zev, spelled it wrong, C-E-V, Ben Shimon Halevi. It's called Inner Conflict, and it's coming from the book of Exodus, chapter 32. Thank you for being here. Again, it's far deeper than that. So let's get into it. In terms of the individual, the episode of the golden calf represents a crisis of the greatest magnitude. Just as the maximum contact with the divine is made, so the maximum resistance is met from the psyche, which draws the whole thing into, which draws the whole being into dismay. The entire initiation is placed in jeopardy. This is the major point of breakthrough or breakdown of spiritual work, or when the full implication of commitment is realized. The true intention and motivation of an individual is tested. Such moments were used by Satan, the dark side of the psyche, to exploit weaknesses and so destroy any unity of being that has been acquired. Doubt, reason, arguments, that is, irrational fears are brought into violent confrontation with faith, knowledge, and courage as advanced and resisting factions struggles within the psyche. The wilder elements disturb the unconscious and panic the psyche foundations, which becomes a rallying point for every dissonant thought, feeling, and action. Tis to the ego, realizing it is about to lose its dominant role, puffs itself up to the enormous proportions of a god. This is the golden calf, which is set up in order to compete with and defeat something deep within the psyche that the ego cannot comprehend. In the scripture, Aaron says to the people dancing around the idol, quote, "This is the God that brought you up out of Egypt," end quote. It is a rhetoric question in the Jewish style. And it has it in brackets, in modern times, or modern idiom, quote, "You must be joking," end quote. At this point, Moses, high up upon the mountain, is informed by the divine, "Get thee down, for thy people," end quote, "have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside quickly from the way which I commanded them," end quote. There is a long pause implied by the translation in the New English Bible. Quote, "I have considered this people, and I see they are stubborn," end quote, meaning rigid, fixed, and unable to change from their old ways. From here on, the severe side of the deity manifests in the words, quote, "Now, therefore, let me alone, that by my wrath may wax hot against them, and that I may consume them," end quote. At first sight, it seems that the situation has gone too far for remedy. The text suggests it would be better to dissolve the whole operation, destroy the corruption, and begin again, even as death is sometimes the only way out of an impossible situation. This is implied in an offer to Moses, who represents the most evolved part of Israel, that is, that which survived physical death and reappears in a new birth. God said to Moses, quote, "And I will make thee a great nation," end quote. This was said also to Abraham, indicating a completely new line. However, the anger and despair of God, according to Fort Lord, is a charade, because the divine has already anticipated the defection of the people. The event was an important lesson to show what happens when a nation or person steps off the spiritual way. The offer was made to Moses to see how he would react. Such tests such tests are not unknown among human mentors to prove the integrity of a disciple. A contrived situation in which the student's vanity is appealed to can sometimes reveal a vainglory of spirit that is infinitely more dangerous than any psychological pride or physical arrogance. However, Moses reminded God of the promise given to the patriarchs. As he, legend records, noticed the angels made ready to attack him should he fall from grace. Because of his answer, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are the archetypes of the soul came to help him as he clung to the throne of heaven, that is, his high spiritual state. God appeared to relent and listen to him. To Moses' further argument that the inhabitants of the earth would say, quote, if the Israelites were destroyed, that the whole operation had no spiritual significance. All mankind would then believe that it was not intended for anyone to be brought out of bondage of the lower worlds. And no one, not even the wise and hopeful, would seek the Garden of Eden and heaven over again. At this point, the divine appears to turn the face of severity away. Indeed, the text, Exodus chapter 33:14, speaks of Yahweh, that is, the merciful aspect of God, repenting of the evil intended towards his people. This term, quote, die, end quote, people used to Moses, is reversed, as the Israelites, for better or worse, are accepted once more by God to be the living example of divine law in action to all mankind, having attained clemency for the Israelites. Moses, quote, turned and went down from the mount, end quote, with the tablets of testimony in his hand. Note the word turn, end quote. Anyone who has had any inter-experience will recognize the moment of rotation before coming back into the lower worlds. Okay, so this is all spiritual. See, it's not physical here, and this guy's done a pretty good job in trying to explain it. On his way down, Moses met Joshua, who had been waiting all the time just below, and together they descended out of the realm of the spirit and into the psychological world, where they stood above and some distance from the physical realm of the camp. Joshua, who did not know what Moses knew, interpreted the hubbub below as warlike cries, but Moses disabused him as they approached ground level. Joshua, waiting obediently between the upper and lower worlds, had been granted a special status during the time on the mountain, but this had placed him out of touch with events above and below. Legend says that at this point, Moses turns back when he perceives the physical reality of what has happened, what had happened. But the 70 elders pursued him to take possession of the wondrous tablets. As he miraculously flew before them, he saw the divine words vanish from the tablets, and they became so unbearable heavy that they fell to earth and were shattered. When a deeply angered and dismayed Moses walked into the camp and saw the people in revelry about the golden calf, he knew that God had given him the task of applying judgment. Nothing less would do but to cut out all the corrupted elements of the community so that the people as a whole might have another chance of redemption. For the individual, this means that not only does it take on the responsibility for his actions and deal with them, but that no situation is without hope, however disastrous. God is indeed merciful. And so that's the end of chapter 38 today. Appreciate your listening. So I thought it's interesting what he says here, the last part here. If you let me see where it's at. Legend says that at this point, Moses turned back when he perceived the physical reality of what had happened, but the 70 elders pursued him so to take possession of the wondrous tablets. In other words, they were taking them away. They were trying to, save them. As he miraculously flew, that is, he flew before them, he saw the divine words vanish. So in other words, they disappeared. That's what he's saying from the tablets. And they became as so unbearably heavy that they fell to earth and were shattered. So we're told that basically, in a way, in the Bible that Moses gets angry and throws him down. This is what he's sharing here. I thought it was interesting to see this, because now simply is God had taken the whole things off, so to speak, at this point. So again, I just want to share that with you guys today. Hope you guys are having a good day. And hopefully everything's going well for you. I see that someone's here. It's good to see someone here. I appreciate you being here. This is a short particular chapter we're doing today. Again, this book is from a gentleman named Zeb ben Shimon Halevi, who is no longer living, unfortunately. He had a lot of wisdom as he shared this particular book. And so thank you for being here. And so wish you well. And we'll talk to you soon. Again, we'll try to do another one. This is my third chapter today. And have a good day. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.